Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So on today's show, on today's episode of Sonic Dorms, I'm welcoming back one of my favorite artists ever in the last year or so. And I'm talking about Maiah Wynne of Envy of None. And obviously her solo material stands for itself as well. But this album was released uh, about nearly a week ago, and I am absolutely in love with it. So welcome back to Sonic Dorms, Maiah. Appreciate
Thank you
this.
so much. I'm so happy to be back.
Yeah, you don't know how much it means to me to finally get the chance to hear this project in its entirety. I have my copy, actually, physical copy that is coming in by tomorrow. I can't wait to have that actually in my hands in my preferred format, which is CD, of course. I know everybody loves vinyl, but I'm still a CD guy.
CD's great too. Vinyl's just nice because it's so big and you can hold it and it's like, wow,
It's
this
the
is
artwork.
yeah.
Mhm. I frame all my vinyls. I don't play them. I literally just frame them because I think it just
Yeah.
again it emphasizes on the magical quality of the art. The art of it, the packaging, if you will.
Yeah.
But so how does it feel now? I know a lot. You're getting a lot of attention right now from various outlets, and all the praise in the world. And for me to have seen kind of the beginnings of that, and finally seeing you get all this wonderful attention and all these accolades from everyone from Rolling Stone to Ultimate Classic Rock. I mean, Alan Cross just interviewed you a little while ago, and the rest of the group in regards to the songs. But how does it feel, really?
It feels really strange actually. Like I feel like there's a part of it that doesn't feel like it feels so separate because everything's digital, and it hasn't quite like felt like this physical thing yet that's happened. We did the interview and that was really fun in Toronto and but for a lot of the stuff like the Rolling Stone article, I wasn't really a part of it. Like they sent the press kit to them and they did a write up and Alex did a little bit of an interview with them and stuff. So it's sort of it's strange. It's strange to sort of see these articles pop up all across the internet that are talking about me. And I have done a lot of interviews and stuff too, but a lot of them I haven't done anything for. And it's just like, wow, there's my name in Ultimate Classic Rock. And oh my gosh, there's my name in, in Rolling Stone. And oh my gosh, there's my name over here. And it's sort of strange. Um, it's surreal to an extent. And also like it hasn't quite hit me all the way yet.
I have to say it really does feel, and you mentioned this in the interview with Alan Cross. It really does. I mean, looking at it from your perspective, I would feel being in your shoes like I just won the lottery in a lot of ways, just because just from that one, this has all been about, as mentioned in that interview as well, all about networking in a very modern sense. But this modern sense of networking has has basically taken you to this place where you are the centerpiece of this project, which has really put your name front and center, working with these incredible artists, producers, engineers, you know, Alex Lifeson, the one and only, and this is almost like a platform for you. At the end of the day, you are the centerpiece of this entire thing, and I think that's so cool. It's like your contributions to this are immense, and it really, especially when you listen to the record, which I recommend you listen to on a good pair of headphones. Your voice in the mix is very much part of the entire sonic blend, which I
Yeah.
really appreciate. It's almost like your voice really is an instrument amongst all the other instruments and the production and the soundscapes. I really was fascinated by that.
Yeah, I did. I put a lot of vocal layers into these songs, and I really did use my voice as an instrument in a lot of ways, and it was really fun working with these guys and with Alex, especially with that because we would sort of build these layers and harmonize together and sort of create a lot of these textures together and I would base some of my harmonies based on his guitar parts. He would base some of his guitar parts based on different harmonies that I did, and it was really fun to sort of create a lot of these textures together from afar.
Yeah, I couldn't help but just be overjoyed just seeing you guys in a room together, and seeing it. It's almost spiritual in a way that the connection is very symbiotic. I felt like just seeing the you guys described the way you collaborated and the way everything seemed to fit seamlessly, and there was a lot of flexibility, it seemed like, when you were working on these songs. If correct me if I'm wrong, was it old strings that the original version was, had the tambourine on it and all this other instrumentation before it was reworked? Was that the track?
Yeah, it didn't have tambourine, but I did have like that was the one that I wrote and I had a whole demo recorded for. So I had some synth parts in there, but then I also had acoustic guitars and mandolins and dulcimers and some drums in there. And then um but the vocals were exactly the same, the structure was exactly the same, and I had all of those vocal textures and harmonies, and the choruses were almost identical, you know. And so it was really something where when I sent it to Andy, you know, he took out the acoustic instruments and the drums, and then you have this underlying synth and this sort of like different vibe to it, and he sort of built on that different I guess sonic landscape to that. So he added some more synths to it, and they did a simpler drum beat, and it turned out really beautiful. But yeah, there really was like a lot of flexibility with each of these songs, and I knew when I sent them something, you know, that I expected them to do something different with it and sort of you know, take out certain parts of the instrumentation or rework it in a with a different sort of style in mind. And there's a bonus track on the bonus CD called Lethe River that was similar. It was a song that I had recorded and demoed out, and then I sent it to them, and there's a lot less layers in that one. It was mostly just electric guitar and bass, but I knew that they would, that especially Andy would want to sort of do something different with it, and it's ended up being more towards like this interesting. I don't even know how to describe the genre. It's more pop almost. It's interesting, but it's cool. It's really cool, and it's part of the fun of working in a collaboration is that you get to sort of rework things in different ways. You get different ears on things, different ideas, different input, and um, you know, and that's sort of the process of how things worked on the opposite end too. You know, Andy would send me tracks and I would rework things and rearrange things and bring a different vibe to them and different ideas to things. So it really was just like, you know, you send something out to the other person and you don't really know what they're going to do to it.
Was this something, an experience that for you, just being a more modern artist, it almost was instinctive for you to work this way, and it came to you naturally? Because, you know, obviously the old school approach normally would be for a group of people to get in a room together and collaborate in that manner. But the fact that from the get-go, this project was all just file sharing and moving parts like that. Was that for you? Was that alien for you, or was it just the way it needs to be, the way that you felt natural towards in general?
I actually really enjoyed that process. You know, I've done more traditional studio stuff before, but I've mostly done stuff at home. You know, in this studio space and in another studio space that's here, and it's really nice for me because I get to have the time in my own sort of creative space to just try different things, to make mistakes, to um, have that sort of time to process things and you know, try out different arrangements and see what works, and without the pressures of a studio space or other people listening. You know, I feel like it allows you to get more creative with things and allows you to really take the time with something to get it right, without other input in it. And so it really is just like it's this is your time to make your contribution, and it is really nice that way. I do still enjoy regular studio time, but I found that even when I'm going into a studio and just recording vocals and it's more of a traditional setting, I tend to pre-demo the song anyway. So I know exactly what I want to do when I'm in the studio because there's so much pressure to perform and get everything right. I tracked almost an entire song at Fame Studios in like 4 hours, and it was super stressful. And it was like, okay, let's get the piano, let's get the guitar, let's get the vocals, let's get the backing vocals, let's get the drums, let's get some other stuff in here. We got some organ in there, and it was just like, you know, and it's a high stress situation, and um, I really enjoy being able to just breathe and process and create and experiment and and then once you're happy with something, sending it off and seeing what other people think about it. And it's really nice, and I've I've become accustomed to it, and I really enjoy it.
What I get from you too is that you have this perfectionist sort of quality to what you do, and you're really good at feeling out. You're basically a great editor. If I'm not wrong, I get a sense that you know how to edit yourself when needed, and that's a skill that not everybody has. All artists kind of work in their own way. Some of them don't know what works and what doesn't. They don't really know. They'll just go on and on and on. But you seem to be somebody who really has zoned in on your craft and won't give up until you feel that whatever you're working on is the way it needs to be for the song.
Yeah, yeah, and I really do enjoy the editing process. I did a lot of my own vocal recording, and then I would edit my own vocals, and I would arrange my vocals and record and edit all of the background vocals and harmonies. And there is a skill to that process, and a skill to sort of knowing your own voice enough to know when you can do better. And I'm sure even still, I think about things and think, oh, I could have done that better. Oh, I could have done this part better. It is hard to let go of that perfectionist part of it, and there is a certain time where you have to just be okay with the fact that it's never going to be perfect, and it's could always be better in some way. But that's the thing about art and capturing music, a moment in time. It's never going to be the perfect thing forever, and it's all about perspective, and it's arbitrary in the end anyway. It's art, and if you can capture the feeling in a moment, then you're doing something right. And you just sort of have to, at some point, let go of some of those perfectionist details, and you have to let go of wanting to redo it over and over again. And that's sort of something I struggle with sometimes too, is like when when it comes time to actually be done with something, because I always feel like, oh, it could be better, or we could do something differently here, or is this the right choice, or I don't know. There's a lot of thought that goes into all of those different creative decisions. And I know that Alex is also I don't know if perfectionist is the right word, but he also is very very tuned into those creative details, and wants everything to be really good and really strong. And he and I are kind of similar in that way. We will sort of sit with something for a long time, and sometimes rework things. And I know he also really enjoys recording on his own as well, and sort of not having input from other people, and just being able to be in his own space and record and edit. So it's yeah, it's been really cool to sort of encourage each other to sort of, you know, let go of the perfectionist side of things. Like, no, this sounds good. This sounds really good. Let's let the butterfly leave.
Right. I love that there seems to be this real, again, symbiotic. No, it's okay. There seems to be this really symbiotic, like, again, creative bond between everybody in the group, including the working relationship between you and Alex. Like, it seems like you guys would kind of like feed off of each other creatively in that manner. And if you had an idea, he would kind of counter back with something that would complement, and vice versa. And I think that's just so cool, because again, it's coming from a real earnest place. And again, you don't hear about a lot of projects like this nowadays that are coming from a very genuinely creative place. It's only being done for the sake, really for the sake of the art. And it really comes across when you hear this album, that genuine, that earnestness with everything involved. I think it's so cool, to say the least.
Yeah, yeah, and these guys are just really talented and so kind and great to work with. And um it was always just really fun to work with, especially early on with Andy and Alf. And those guys always had really great ideas out of the gate, and so it was really easy to be inspired listening to the bass tracks that they sent, and the bed tracks. Even if they were pretty simple, I could always hear, oh, this could go this direction. And I hear, I get inspired listening to it. And that's not always the case. There's a lot of people, a lot of musicians out there that want to collaborate with people, and they'll send you instrumental tracks that it's like, oh, these are pretty standard chords, and this is a pretty standard beat, and it doesn't really necessarily inspire you, like, oh, this could be a really cool song, we could take it this way, it's really has this unique edge to it. And feel like everything that Andy was sending me, I felt really inspired by, and it was easy to see that it was something that wasn't just a typical, you know, four chord structure and beat. It was nice to have something that was a little bit different and challenging at times, and let my brain work a little bit.
And now take me back. I recall I've in various interviews I've heard about how it was really Andy that steered you in the direction, the overall direction of this project with Envy of None, as far as like saying he picked out that one song that you had out of a batch of songs that you had co-written with a friend of yours, and that kind of became the framework or like the almost like the direction for where this project went, as far as like focus on this is what you should be doing right now. What is that something that you feel you're going to be carrying now forward, like not to say that you're going to be pigeonholing yourself, but you're going to be more maybe exploring more of this side of things genre wise?
I think there's definitely a space there for me to keep exploring this genre, and maybe we'll keep making some of these songs together, and I hope we do. And that original song that he was inspired by, I was a collaboration between me and my co-producer um, of my regular music, and we're talking about doing some more stuff in that vein as well, and officially releasing that song. And I do feel like there's always space for that in my life and space for that genre, and I always want to keep exploring. I'd never want to put myself into a box, and but I still think my heart is very much in my own music as well, and I don't feel like I've really had the chance to release the music that really represents me yet. I've done a lot of projects and collaborations and commissioned work that's sort of floats around that the genres that I work in my own music, but I haven't quite had a lot of songs that really firmly say, "Oh, this is me and this is my music and this is my genre." And so I'm really excited. I'm working on my debut record right now as well, and I'm actually going to send some tracks to Alex to add some guitars to, and hopefully send some stuff to Andy and Alf to maybe add some layers to as well. And so, you know, and there's a couple songs that dabble in some of those more industrial or rock or I guess synth sides, and that's always been a part of my music anyway. But there's also a lot of other things in here too. There's folk, there's pop, um, there's rock influences and indie influences, and some really soft and beautiful orchestral pieces in here, and there's a lot of different influences in this record, and I'm really excited for people to hear it because I have so many different sides to the music that I want to make and collaborations, and I just really enjoy the process of trying new things and exploring the different facets of my voice and the things that I can create. And so, yeah, that's my long-winded way of saying I want to do all the things.
That's good. I always appreciate an artist, I mean personally, that is diverse and multifaceted, so it's nice to hear that you are going to be an artist of that caliber in that field of um, having consistent songwriting that will be yours, but your own identity, but you're always going to be willing to shift within that identity that you have. But I'm just curious, as a songwriter, what does it feel like when you get that initial spark of inspiration? What does it feel like to write a song? For you, what is that experience like exactly?
Hmm. I feel like most days my brain is maybe running on 2% capacity, and the moments where I get really inspired, it feels like it just lights up all of these electrical pathways in my brain, and I can feel it. Like I can physically feel it in my head, and it's like, wow, I have all of these ideas, and I suddenly have this just spark, and it really is. It feels like this just like tingly, like I feel all of my brain working for a little bit, and I get just a lot of inspiration and joy. It feels very joyous and like probably dopamine happening, and it feels really amazing, and it feels really exciting, and I love the feeling of it. And I love following that feeling and leaving the door open so that when inspiration does strike, I just follow it and I go and I drop what I'm doing if I can, and I just explore wherever that idea is taking me. And that's always been how I've written songs. And I've done commissioned work where I sort of sit down and try to write things, and I've had those moments where I'm attempting to do something more consciously and it's a little bit slower going and a little bit more challenging, but I still live for those moments of just pure inspiration and where you're not thinking as much. It feels like your brain is working more, but you're not really thinking as much. It's less of a conscious thing and more of a um, stream of consciousness and flow, and you're in that moment. And I really felt like there was that Pixar film that just came out not that long ago that really talked about that state, the creative state of being in that
Soul.
flow state. Soul, yeah. And it
Yeah.
was amazing. And I feel like it's the first time I really heard or seen somebody really pinpoint that feeling so well. Um, and it's entrancing and magical and sort of feels like sometimes those ideas aren't even yours. They're just coming from this sort of like collective consciousness, and you're just receptive to it for whatever reason. In that moment, you're receptive to this idea, and it doesn't always even feel like it's even me, and it's something else. And I'm grateful for being the vessel for this idea. And it's, not to like put any overemphasis on the process, but it really is. It's magical, and I know a lot of people who are really passionate about the work that they do get that feeling in other ways and can get that sensation with whatever kind of work they're doing and creative processes that they indulge in, and it's really, I love it. I live for it.
Yeah, again, it's coming from a very honest place, and it's apparent. I mean, just even on a project like the one that you're currently promoting with Envy of None, I mean, it's very apparent that everything is so um, just well crafted, but coming from a real honest place. I keep saying that, but it's true. I mean, everything sounds so genuine. Um,
Thank you.
but
I worked really hard for that too. Like, I feel like for me it's really important as and it's a different process for these songs because it's not something I'm just sitting down and like in inspiration state and writing. It's like I'm getting these tracks, and I want to bring something that was genuine to it and something that I really felt as a singer, and that was really important to me. So that means a lot. So thank you.
yeah, what did was it? Yeah, of course. What did it feel like doing certain things that maybe you weren't so used to doing on this record? Like, I believe there's a song where you are actually like screaming your head off at one point.
Yeah.
What which I'm sure was that new? Was that experience new for you? And if so, what was that like doing these unorthodox things for yourself? Did you learn something by doing some of these things?
Yeah, I brought in two of my friends that I collaborate with sometimes, and they're a female hard rock duo, and I brought them in, and I
Are you
was like,
speaking
"Hey,
of Dreadlight?
yeah, I'm speaking of Dreadlight,
All
yeah,
right, yeah, they're wonderful.
yeah, they're amazing." And I
Hmm.
and I brought them into the studio, and I was like, "Hey, I need help. I need some group yells, and we need to scream and get big." And that was for Dog's Life, and Kendra did some amazing, just like gritty screams in that song, and we had some huge vocal moments in there, and it got refined and whittled down to like those little moments, but like we could have gone so big on that song with the layers that we had a lot of screams and a lot of yells, and it was really cathartic, and it was nice for me to have that support from them because I get a little timid sometimes, and um sometimes intimidated by the idea of getting big with my voice because I don't have a big commanding voice. I'm a small person. I have the voice that I have, and I can get as big as I can with it. And sometimes that can be pretty big, but it's not necessarily intimidating. It's not necessarily, a voice that's going to like scare somebody. It's like, it's my voice and I love my voice, but it was nice to sort of test the limits of it, and I really did enjoy the process of doing something bigger. And Enemy was one that I sort of let myself get bigger on the choruses for too, and that was really really cathartic for me as a generally pretty quiet person.
I honestly think that sometimes it's better to go with, or not better necessarily, but I guess refreshing to my ears at least, to hear a voice that just more nuanced. and it has those textures to it when you do layer it and stuff the way you do on this album. And to me, sometimes that can be in itself more intimidating than someone who's just doing the typical yelling in your
Yeah.
face kind of thing, modern rock radio thing. I think the fact that your voice is coming from this other, while the music could be aggressive, your voice is coming at it from a almost like from a contrasting place. But I think that's kind of what makes it unique, and I think that's part of what makes this project um, a lot. To me, it makes it more unique overall. I think that's one of those factors in that whole equation, if you will. But I love that song, by the way, "Enemy." I think that's another highlight for me, just because of how different it is. And again, this is a record with a lot of different sides to it.
Yeah. Yeah, Enemy was really fun to make, and that was actually one of the only ones I did vocals in studio in Toronto. We did two songs there. I did Enemy and Never Said I Love You, um and similarly I sort of pre-planned my vocals for it to an extent, and I had done a demo of both of the songs and had a rough idea of what I wanted to do in studio, but I think especially with that was one of my favorite moments was doing the in studio vocals for Enemy because I didn't have time to overthink things, and I had to like all of my anxiety was like, okay, I can't do this right now. I have to put all this aside, and I sort of like disassociated from all of my anxiety for a little bit and was like, okay, I just have to fully commit to just being powerful in this moment, even though I don't feel powerful, even though I'm scared of hitting a bad note because I hadn't been working with these guys for very long. And, it was just Andy and Alf in the studio with me, but I was a little intimidated. I was a little nervous about doing something wrong or embarrassing myself or hitting a bad note and doing a bad job. And I had to sort of let go of all of that. It's like, because I can't have that bubbling up while I'm singing this song. I have to be powerful. I have to be 100% committed to the emotion in this song. And it's sort of like do or die moment for me in the
Right.
studio, and I did it, and I was really proud of myself for being able to let go as an anxious person and somebody who deals with a lot of anxiety. It was a really powerful moment for me to finally have a moment where I felt like I really successfully let go of all of that stuff and succeeded in something that was challenging for me in that moment, and it turned out really cool, and those vocals turned out really good, and I didn't have time to overthink things or really redo a lot of those moments. We powered through that song really fast, and it turned out really cool.
It sure did. And again, that's inspiring in itself, because myself and plenty of other people deal with anxiety on a daily basis, and it's inspiring when you hear stories like that. At least for me, and I'm sure many others, um, about overcoming that in such a way, and getting yourself back upright, and committing to what it is that you need to get done, and actually doing a phenomenal job at the end of the day. So that's
Thank
incredible.
you.
Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, of course.
Lyrically, were a lot of these lyrics on this album, were they all from you, or was it more of a collaboration in that sense?
I wrote probably 95% of the lyrics. um Most of them didn't have lyrics at all. There was just a song title. And then there was a few where Andy had sort of little seeds of vocal ideas. Like, I think Never Said I Love You was one of them where he had the I never said I love you and I never said I want to make you mine, and that was it. And they were in different places in the song, and slightly different melodies. And then I would take that and sort of was okay, I can make that into a chorus, and I finished the chorus, and then I wrote the rest of the verses around that. And then um, there's a couple of other ones. Dog's Life, he had quite a few vocal ideas, but it was a completely different idea, and the song was about something else completely. Like he had written it about like a dog's from a dog's perspective about like a dog's like undying love, and it was cool, but I didn't connect with it as much, and with all of these he's really like didn't have a big attachment to any of the ideas. He's like, if you have other ideas, you know and feel free to change them, and I tried to keep some of the melody ideas in there, and I kept the phrase "it's a dog's life," and then I changed everything else so that it was about being overworked and feeling overworked, and that was something that I was really feeling in that moment, and felt to me, like I could connect the thread of the heaviness and the intensity of the music to the phrase "it's a dog's life," and I was like, okay, this is where that genuine feeling of honesty comes from for me. Is like, okay, this feeling feels like being overworked, and that's where I'm going to write from. And that was sort of the challenge in a lot of these songs, was like I I would take the song title for the other ones and then listen to the instrumental and think, okay, where how do these two pieces connect for me, personally, and how can I make this something that I relate to, and that other people can relate to, and that feels like a natural connection between the song title and the sound of the instrumental. And it was kind of challenging on a few of the songs, especially Spy House was probably the most challenging one for me, because it was already a really great instrumental that Alex had done. And Spy House is a really specifically weird title that I couldn't, like, okay, well, what is the story here? What is the emotion here? And so that was the only one that I don't necessarily connect to as much personally. I made an entire character in my head to sort of relate to the song through, and it's like this woman who's really paranoid and also obsessed with somebody, and she's convinced herself that he's spying on her, but she's actually the one spying on him, and it's just this weird it's a really weird specific story, but it felt like it matched the emotion of the song for me. If there's this like almost obsessive feeling and love and passion, but also paranoia in there, and all of these sort of creeping feelings in between. It's a little spooky at times, and so it was like, okay, this is the story that works. And I went with it. But it was definitely, I had a lot of early attempts with that song that were not good at all, and I was super frustrated with it for a while. I was like, I can't figure this one out. I can't make it work. And we finally landed on something that I think fits within the song and works, and it turned out pretty cool. And I like how the vocals come in and sort of um, support that really big guitar solo. And that's one of my favorite moments. And it was just like, it explodes in that moment, and it's really cool. And his guitar solo in that song is just epic and really cool. So I'm really happy with how it turned out, but it was a challenge.
Thanks for answering that. And that was something I was going to ask you about, was specifically because I remember there's a lot of headlines made when both Spy House and Cobalt Blues came out as just instrumental
Yeah.
pieces. This is prior of me hearing about the existence of them being done. So then once we, a couple months later, so you realize like those two songs are actually going to be part of this project, but you're going to put your own spin on them by adding words and melodies and your voice on top of it. So I was really curious to hear. I think that was one of my biggest like places of curiosity of
Yeah.
in regards to this, right? I'm like, what is she gonna do with these songs, these two specific tracks, or something like Spy House? I mean, like that to me, and the fact that you took what was already great in the first place and just enhanced it in your own way, I felt like that was really neat.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed the process of it, and Cowboy Blues was really challenging too, but once it clicked, it really clicked for me, and it turned out really cool. And I love his instrumental layers in that. He did like a backwards banjo in that. That's sort of that lead instrument is a reversed banjo that he did. That's super cool, and just has this almost Middle Eastern quality to it at times. And all of the instrumental layers that he added in that song are so cool to me, and it was really fun finding vocal harmonies that fit. It's a little challenging at times too, because it's not quite a major or a minor key. I remember I emailed him. I was like, "Is this a major key or a minor key?" And he just said yes. And I was like, "I don't know what to do with this." And I finally, like, once it clicked, though, it really clicked, and it had a really cool flow to the process of working on that song, and it's one of my favorites on the record.
Yeah, there you brought up something really interesting. You being forced in a way to write from a different point of view, outside of your own. Is that something that, for the most part, you prefer doing? Do you normally like to write based on your own self, or are you kind of
Mm.
in between now, or how does that work for you, especially coming off of this project now?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy both processes for different reasons. I think, we talked about sort of flow state, and I don't get that as much when I'm working on these collaborations because it's more like I feel like it's more challenging for my brain in a different way. It feels like I'm trying to like solve a puzzle more, which I enjoy a lot, and there's a little bit of that flow state in there in between finding those little pieces that fit, and I enjoy that process a lot. And but I do also really enjoy the process of just being on my own and creating and not having any parameters. It just being an open space for me to create without having to worry about anything or make anything fit into parameters. So I really enjoy both processes for different reasons. And I feel like, when you're collaborating with people, you make music that you would never have made otherwise. And there's something really fulfilling about that and fulfilling about creating art with other people and trusting other people enough to know that whatever is made, it's not going to be what you would have made, and it's probably going to be better for it, because you have four different people contributing to one idea together. And there's something really fulfilling and satisfying about that project, and getting to know people in that process of creating art together is really beautiful.
It's incredible. I can't let you go without asking you about the first single from this project, which um, blew me away the second I heard it. That first impression is always the everlasting one in my book. And when I heard Liar for the first time, this happened. I couldn't believe it. It's just that song. It's not even just the industrial thing aside. I mean, just from your vocal melodies on that, and there's almost like this, dare I say, sinister underpinning to the way you
Yeah.
deliver the lines, the way you deliver them, that is intense in a lot of ways in my book. And would you mind sharing a few details about that song and it's the creative
Yeah,
process that went through from a lyrical and even musical like way?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think so. That song, like originally, that was one that they had almost completed before sending it to me. They even had a different vocalist on it, and they had different lyrics um, on it, and it was already a really great song. It had a very similar vibe, but more of a traditional rock vocalist on it, and and I feel like that's really a testament to Andy and his songwriting, and it was already a really great song. And for me, when I heard it, and it was originally, I think, more of like a relationship sort of, you lied to me kind of song. And I don't really write a lot of relationship songs. um and so it was a little bit harder for me to connect to it. And I sat with it for a while when they sent it to me, thinking, okay, how am I going to? And he sent it to me and was like, feel free to change whatever you want. Make it your own, make it something that you're happy with. And so I wanted to sort of sit with it for a while. I was like, okay, how do I make this something I personally relate to? And because I'm not generally a very spiteful person, I I love people, and I have a hard time feeling spiteful against people, even if they've treated me badly. I have a hard time channeling that energy. And so I sat with it for a while, and then I had jury duty for the first time. And there was a woman on trial, and she just had this evil energy to her. And she looked me dead in the eyes as they were reading all of these horrible things that she was accused of and that she was on trial for. Really gross, terrible things. And she just had this look of pure vacancy and malice and kind of bone chilling stuff. And I didn't end up getting put on the jury for that. They, I guess, eliminated me from the possibility
And
of
you're
being on
and
that
you're
jury.
like, phew, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was happy about it, but in that moment, I was like, this, she of course pled not guilty and stuff at the beginning, and everything inside of me was like, this woman is lying. This person is a liar. She's guilty of every single one of these things. I don't know for sure, but that's what I was feeling on the inside after that very bone chilling moment, and it creeped me out. And I went home and I rewrote the verses and the verse melodies to sort of reflect that. And I was like, that this this is where I'm going to connect to for this song. And I needed that sort of outlet in that moment too, because I was like, what do I do with all this creepy, unsettling energy and this feeling, you know, of not knowing how the trial turned out, and if, you know, I didn't know anything from that point forward. And it was really for me, it was kind of a perfect thing to channel that into. And so all of the verses I rewrote about her and about that moment. And um from that first line, you know, the world starts burning when your eyes meet mine, your black heart left open and there's nothing inside, and all of that is, that was that moment. That was that moment with her for me. And then those choruses, the "You're a liar" refrain, you know, I kept from the original that Andy had written, and then I think I rewrote the chorus, or the bridge section as well, and we had a little bit of a back and forth on some little moments in there. Um, and so that one was very collaborative between me and Andy, and it was it, yeah, it turned out really cool, and that's where a lot of that creepiness and that creepy energy came from. Was just like I took that moment and then put it right into the song.
Work to its advantage. That's fantastic. I mean, in that case, it was right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and just to wrap up the whole envy of none thing, I'm just out of curiosity. I would love to know. I'm an album art guy, and I love artwork in general. I'm a huge fan of art, just great artwork and concepts behind them. Who was behind the concept, of the promos and the album art and whatnot? Who is steering the ship on that?
That was actually, so there was a company called Plastic, and they had a photographer that did a bunch of photos for that company. And Andy had a connection there, and we were talking about different album art ideas. And um, I think that he wanted something that especially was very like bold and interesting. And so he sort of perused their catalog, hoping to license a photo for the album cover. And he sent us the link with a bunch of different photos, and we all kind of looked at them. And I think that was the one that we all agreed on, because it just drew your attention so immediately. It's such an interesting photo. It's actually like a promo photo for a purse company, was where that picture came from. And
Really,
yeah. And so they agreed to license the photo to us for the album art. Um, and I think there's a guy named Beach from the label that did a lot of the sort of design work of everything. And you know, he took the photo, and they ended up getting one more picture licensed from that same sort of photo shoot for a lot of the inserts and artwork on the inside, you know, because it's hard to do all of that with one picture. So we did get a second picture that he was able to sort of finesse, and created, I think, 11 individual art pieces essentially for each of the songs on the insert that you get with the vinyl, which is pretty cool. And you know, he really stretched those two pictures as far as he could stretch them. But it really turned out so cool. And it really is, that picture is so striking, and it grabs your attention. And originally the things they're holding weren't pills, they were these purses that basically looked like pills. And so we're like, well, why don't we just, you know, tweak them a little, and there you have it. It's a little bit more intriguing that way. And um yeah, it was really that yeah, so kudos to that photographer. And those models are so just like intense and
hmm
perfect for that shot. They did a great job. It's just like that look of I don't know what that look is, but it's so striking, and it just grabs your attention. You're like, what are these ladies thinking? What are they doing? What are they selling to me? And then you kind of want to buy it, you know?
I think in a weird way, it does like put you into the world of the album. And once you like, it's one of those covers that you're like, okay, like I can kind of connect, or my brain immediately wants to connect the world of the music you've created and the art.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's something, there's that pop of color, that there's that look of intensity that you're trying to sort of understand. There's the mystery of the pills, but then there's a little bit of sinister energy there that you can't quite figure, like pinpoint where it's coming from, but it does feel a little bit sinister too. So I do feel like it sort of encaptures a lot of the music really well, which, like you said, I think that's is a mark of success for trying to just find a photo for the record. And I really love it. It's very striking, and it feels like, there's a lot of those album covers from the 80s and the 90s that kind of had that vibe too, where it was just this picture that didn't necessarily have a specific reference to anything in the songs, but somehow, it becomes this iconic piece of the music. When you look back at those early Nirvana records, or, there's so many of them that just have that image that doesn't quite, in your brain, is like, what is that? And then now it's just this iconic piece of music history. So maybe in the future, people will be like, yeah, this is that iconic album art.
Thank
I
you for
hope
bringing
so.
that up. I was immediately thinking, my brain went to, like, when you said 80s, 90s, I thought of like something like the cover to Sap from, oh no, not Sap, Jar of Flies from Alice in Chains. And then I was also thinking about
Yeah.
like In Utero from Nirvana, which you're like,
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? Wow, that's cool. And you don't really see striking artwork like that nowadays, just because of how things are now. But it's every now and then it's cool when something like this pops up that's really striking, something that's very memorable, and something that really encapsulates the magic inside, right? So, which is
Yeah.
the music itself. But the music video for Look Inside, which is that also encapsulates a lot of some of that energy from the album art, and visually. I mean, you're at the center of this video, but I thought that was wonderfully done, very tasteful, sophisticated, like the music itself. And I was wondering, will there be more videos for this project or no?
Yes, we're actually about to release a video for Never Said I Love You, but I won't be in it. I don't think yeah, I don't think any of us are going to be in that video. It's There is a dancer in it, and um it's a little challenging, because I'm all the way in Portland and they're all the way in Toronto, and we did have a lot of fun making the Look Inside music video, and I imagine we'll keep making more videos, but I think for to be cost effective and efficiency effective, we'll probably do more videos where we hire other people to be in them, or um and it's been fun to explore the visual side of things too, and I'm excited to see how this video turns out, and I know we're going to release it in the next like week or so, which is very exciting. So
Excellent. And on the visual side, if you can talk about it if you want. Tell me about this project, which I'm dying to watch. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's on Netflix now, and
oh yeah.
I believe you're in it because I
Yeah.
just heard recently that you are. And it's funny because prior to finding out about that, I was interested in the project just because of the people involved. I mean, Tom Morello did the music. I
Mhm.
believe it was written and directed by one of the guys behind Game of Thrones on
Yeah.
HBO, and
It's an interesting mix.
yeah, yeah. So and obviously deals with the world of metal and that fandom, extreme fandom kind of way. So I was really curious to check it out. But then I heard you're in it as well as Dreadlight's in it too,
Yeah,
right? So
it was really funny. It was last year. I do a lot of sort of background work and acting work here in Portland, and so they specifically were asking me because they wanted another band for the Battle of Bands competition, and um they went through this whole sort of casting process for this. It's ended up being a very tiny part, which is really funny, but it was a very extensive casting process, and they wanted a female like folk trio, and so I brought, of course, roped Dreadlight into doing it with me, and they put them in these ridiculous folky outfits and hats, and they were they were really good sports about it, but we uh yeah, we got cast in it, and we spent a few days on set, and we were there for the Battle of the Band scene, which was so chaotic. I think you see us, they ended up just shooting the back of us for one sort of shot of us on stage. So you'll see me sort of waving, and then us like leaving the stage, and then you'll see Kendra in the background of them talking backstage, and you'll see her hat occasionally. But it's pretty funny, and that whole filming process was very chaotic. That song that they perform at the end, I think it's called Machinery of Torment. We
mhm.
probably listened to that 100 times over the course of 2 days, and they did this mosh pit scene, and we're somewhere just getting smushed in the mosh pit. Like, if you so if you look carefully and pause it at different times during the mosh scene, you might see us getting squished around in there. It's a very chaotic process. But yeah, I just watched it the other day, and it was pretty funny after, it was especially a weird process because it was right in the middle of the pandemic too, and we're like, we're supposed to wear masks, but then in the scene you have like 100 extras just like body bumping each other and like just
Right.
total chaos, and it was an interesting experience, but it was fun, and you do see us for at least a second, yeah.
That's still very cool. And that movie is called Metal Lords.
Metal Lords, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, that's cool. I'll be checking that out this week. So I'll make sure to pause it during the mosh
Yeah.
pit too.
Yeah. See if you can see us.
But Maya, so looking forward into the future, we all know what's next. Something that I believe during our first interview, we joked about what was going to come out first, either this or that. And obviously Envy of None ended up coming out first, but I'm really excited, especially after this launching pad for you. And obviously the singles that you had released prior to Envy of None, which made me fall in love with your voice and your songwriting talents. I'm really jet set for the future as far as your solo work and your debut as a singer-songwriter, album-wise. So anything that you can say in regards to, is the album close to being, I know you mentioned that you're sending some stuff to other collaborators at the moment, but do you have like a lot of it already kind of conceptualized as far as like sequencing and all that jazz?
Yeah, yeah, a lot of the songs are pretty far along at this point. We just recorded cello for a lot of the songs, and the next couple weeks we're really just focusing on getting everything recorded, and then we have, I have a few one-off gigs here and there in the next couple months, but then we'll be mixing and editing, and then we'll send it off to mastering. I have it all scheduled out, and the album will be done by and released by Feb or when was it? September. What month? But it'll all
What
be
is
done in
time?
September. Yeah, exactly. And then I'm gonna go on a tour and sort of support it, and um, I'm excited to see what happens with it, and I feel like I've been waiting so long for it, and I'm really excited to finally like have this thing that I made and is like my own thing. I feel like a toddler with the thing I made out of Play-Doh, like I made this and I'm really proud of it and I want to share it with everyone.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I also want to support what you do in the best way possible in your work. So do you already have a means of how you're going to release this, as far as like how do you expect people to check it out? I know I'm pretty sure it'll be on streaming platforms, but for someone like myself who does like to purchase physical copies of things and support my favorite artist, do you already have an idea for how that's going to work?
Yeah, we will definitely have CDs available if things go well. I'm still independent at the moment, but I have some contacts now, and I'm hoping that once I have everything recorded and mixed, I'm going to shop it around, and hopefully, because vinyl's so expensive and trying to do distribution of vinyl and physical CDs can be really challenging as an independent artist. So I'm hoping I can get some help in that department once I'm done recording everything, once all the songs are done. I'm hoping I can sort of find a route to do pre-sales for vinyl and CD, and that and I've learned so much about the process of releasing this record through the label too, and it's been nice to sort of have an inside look at what working with a label is like without having to be personally like attached with my own music quite yet. I can sort of know what I want in that sort of relationship, and the benefits of it, and it's really nice, I gotta say. It's really nice.
Right.
So I'm hoping for it. I'm hoping we'll have a lot of distribution for vinyl and CDs and all the things.
Well, I champion artists such as yourself who's doing it for real. I have nothing against anybody out there right now who isn't, or anybody who's in the mainstream right now who, whatever. At the end of the day, it's all good, it's all positive, but I will champion artists who have that, or the soulful artists, the ones that are really doing it from the heart and really crafting, you know, solid songs from the heart. I mean, that to me, I miss those days where that was what was on pop radio. But you know, it's okay because I will continue to champion artists such as yourself, and I'm sure plenty of others will once they continue to hear your talents over the course of forever, I guess, as long as it goes. But I really do. I really have nothing but the best wishes to send your way. I've been on board since day one, and I'll continue to be there. So you always have my support, and you always have, once again, you always have an open seat here in Sonic Dorms, wherever this thing goes that I'm trying to build here. Little by little, we'll see. But with that being said, I really appreciate your time, Maiah, taking the time to do this. I'm sure you have a million things to do and you decide to dedicate some time for this. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me and finding me interesting enough to want to interview again. Appreciate you.
Yeah, we that's why I started this thing, because I felt like there weren't enough tastemakers out there being vocal about artists that they felt strongly about, and I think we need that. We can't just rely on
Yeah.
algorithms and social media platforms from the artists themselves. I mean, that's great and all, but we need people out there to voice their opinions loud and proud about the music that they thoroughly enjoy, and they need to, you know, curate some of this stuff for people so that people can be fascinated as much as someone like myself is, and an artist such as you, right? So I think that's important. So it's my job here to make sure that I continue to build this brand here so that I can showcase talents such as yourself. So again, thank you so much for making this platform of mine that much more credible with your presence involved. Really.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
all the best to you. Again, all the success in the world. I know it's gonna happen. It's only a matter of time. Good things come to those who wait, right? So
Yeah.
I will continue to support you, of course, and all the best to you. All the all the success in the world. I see that this Envy of None project is just going surfing right up the charts, and that's
Yeah,
really
it's
exciting.
exciting.
So people are listening, people are digging it, and
Yeah.
so yeah, all the best to you, Maiah.
Thank you. Thanks for
All
having
right,
me.
all right. Until next time.